There we go. I think we are recording. Good, good, good. All right. Good morning, everybody. We are here for Business Planning 2025. Let me see if I can also accomplish a screen share. So I can go, does everybody have the handout that I've been sending out?
I don't know if I am.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So let me see.
Maybe I'll check. Get it.
Is that now a window? Share. Let's see if this works. That work?
Da, 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 da.
Woohoo! We have a winner. Okay. I love when technology works, and it's Mercury retrograde, so technology working is even more of a bonus. So, all right. For those of you, if you don't have it, I did send it out again this morning that you can print it down. And the intention of today is to start to talk about your setting up for 2025, right? So I want to go through this document. It's a working document for you to do. You and I can go through things together in our one-on-ones, but this is intended also, let's share some ideas and stuff, but it's really about setting up 2025 the right way, right? Coming into this from a business planning perspective, you'll see in there a lot of information around numbers, because what we measure, we can control, right? If something, we want to set goals and we then want to measure to them, because if we are not making our goals, we want to know, how can I adjust to actually get myself back on track, right? How can I keep myself accountable to get to the end goal of where I want to be? And before I dive in, I'm going to share a story with you, because, and some of you may have heard this that have worked with me before, but when I came into real estate, I was the National Rookie of the Year with 10 million my first year in the business. And that came out of going to the award ceremony and sitting there, and some person got up and got the award. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. I would like to do that. If I'm going to get into this business, I might as well go all in. What did they do to do that? And the manager said they did 8 million. I'm like, all right, well, let me go 10, because I need to make sure, just in case somebody does better this year, I beat that. So I actually set for that first year a goal of 10 million. I ended up doing 10.1 million. I wish I had set a goal of 20 million. That might have been better, right? I might have shot higher. But the reason I share it, because I backed into how I was going to get to 10 million, right? So we can say, I want to get somewhere. I want to do this in business. But what are the steps that are then going to get us to that 10 million? What does that look like for the number of sales? What does that mean in terms of how many people do I need to get in front of in order to get to those sales based on conversion rates? What does that mean in terms of conversations that I need to have to get into those contracts, to get into that number? That's what we're going to take a look at today, because there's real power in that, right? There's real power in understanding, yes, I have a goal, whether that's, and I want lofty goals. People, I don't want you to be too conservative, but when we know how we're going to get there and we set the path, we have a higher probability of actually getting there. We have a higher probability of getting there, because we understand, if we're then tracking, we can understand quicker if we've gotten off track and adjust. We should never be setting goals and then saying, okay, I've set my goals for 2025. And maybe this is 2024. This is the end of the year in 2024. And you're sitting there going, I didn't make my goals. And you don't understand why, right? You should understand the why. You should understand what happened, so that then I can adjust and get back on track for 2025. Does that make sense? What we measure, we can achieve, right? What we measure, we can achieve, because we can also identify areas of skill set we might need to work on, daily practice we might need to work on. Like, we know how to improve on things to get to what we want. So that's sort of your general picture of why we're doing this today. If you go to, so how come I can't move this? You guys can see the business planning workshop, right?
Yes.
But I can't move it. How come I can't move it? Oh, see, it looked so easy. I was on track so quickly. Let me try something. 1 minute. Stop sharing. Let's try this again. And now. All right, well, I might have trouble doing this for some reason because it is in a document versus, I don't know, anybody have any tips for me?
No.
Go to where the document is open like you would be looking at it yourself and try scrolling it from there.
Got it. Like here, do you see that scrolling
There
now?
you go.
There it goes.
Got it. Okay,
Matt,
so I can't see you guys, but that's okay. That works. Okay. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Good for something, I guess, right?
Good for a lot. Good for a lot. All right. So we're going to talk about really just from a general piece in terms of action equals results. I'm going to talk about reviewing 2024, how you look at what you have done, and then we're going to talk about the 2025 plan. So first and foremost, why follow a model, right? Everything, and I kind of led into this, and we've talked a little bit about this sales meeting that you guys were in. You know, if you think of all the great athletes that are out there and everybody that's out there achieving great things, they come from a plan, right? They come from a plan. They come from coaching. They come from a model that's going to get them to where they're looking for. They're not tripping over things and just becoming exception. So the pathway to get to excellence, according to Tony Robbins, is modeling, right? They're also people who get results typically model and base things even potentially after other people's experience. We do not need to recreate real estate in order to be successful in real estate. There are a lot of people that have modeled that for us that we can then work with and utilize to move our own plan forward. We don't have to recreate the wheel. Okay. All we have to do is implement the plan and put in that formula for success. So for those of you that were on the sales meeting, some of you were not, we did start to talk about success leaving clues. So for those of you, if you've done this exercise, if you haven't done this exercise, I want to give you a minute, but I want to see if anybody wants to share pick a time in your life or an event in your life when you felt successful. And then what do you feel like from your side? What traits did you possess that led you to that? What actions led you to that success? Anybody want to chime in here a little bit?
Planning.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I used to sell radio advertising, and it was a period where the manager needed more. So I learned to negotiate with my manager. So I made a nice little $225,000 that year, but it's like okay, so listen, I could do this, but not at this rate. And I'm telling you, I can get it today. And she would do it. Guess what else started happening? She would hand me leads. Guess what else would start happening? She'd walk in and say, I know you got something. I say, I know I'm sandbagging. Right. And so basically, yeah, that was it. It was like negotiating with the person that led the team, and it worked. And also negotiating with my clients. And yeah, so I remember that clearly, and I'm pretty sure it was over X number of years ago because it was fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good. Who else? That's a good one, Renee.
I'll share one quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a background in social work. So I was elected to be the clinical team leader. So I used to work with social workers and nurses. So what that involved was having to assess a problem quickly and thoroughly and come up with a solution, which, a lot of those skills in social work easily translate into the real estate career. So that was a really, just a really good feeling to be perceived as a leader by your peers and superior, I guess, manager.
Mm-hmm. So what traits do you think that was showing, Carla, from you? What traits do you think you possessed at that point?
Well, at that point in that context, in the social work context, which applies to real estate again, it's really ability to have good critical analytical skills, which we do that all the time. What does your buyer need? How are you going to find them the right home that fits them? And come up with good solutions, be a problem solver, essentially. You are the problem solver. How are you going to go about it to solve that problem so that you have a healthy patient? So you have a happy buyer, in other words.
It does translate. It does translate pretty well into this business, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Good. Anybody else want to share one real quick? I know we've got lots of successes in this group. Okay, everybody's going to be shy today. That's okay. I want you, if you haven't done it though, I do want you to do this exercise personally and really dive into that. 2 reasons. We all have, I'll call them ebbs and flows in our life. We all have times where we feel like, and I love to say, like, I feel like I'm in the zone, right? I feel like I'm in the zone. Everything's working well. Things are on the right path. And then there's other times we feel like we're battling or fighting stuff. So recognizing, like, when you're in the zone and what does that look like? How are you showing up? What are the actions you're taking when you're getting there? What is it about you? What is it about your traits that kind of get you into that mode? So this exercise is really good about looking at that. How do you divert when you're off of that? Or what is diverting you off of that? And how are you getting yourself back on track when that happens? The more you understand about that, the shorter those off track tracks will be in your life. The shorter they'll be, the longer the success tracks will be in your life. Okay, so I'm going to jump ahead to page 9 and 10 for a minute here, because I want to talk about 2024. And for some of you, and again, this can be from a real estate component, this can be from a life component, but I want you to think about your 2024. Now, real quick, just raise your hands or just a quick, how many of you actually set goals for 2024? Like really, intentionally set goals? Okay, a lot of us do that, right? Even if it's New Year's Eve resolutions. And by the way, they do say that instead of doing January, set your resolutions like in November, like now. Set your goals now, because that lines you up for the success for the full year, as opposed to trying to start fresh from January 1. So this component of the exercise has you go through what goals did you accomplish for 2024 and what did you not yet achieve? What goals have you accomplished for 2024 and which did you not yet achieve? Who wants to share something that they did accomplish for 2024?
I'll share one. I bought a car. I really needed a car for work. It was not a brand new car, but that's for 2025.
Okay, that's okay.
It's a nice car.
And actually, brand new cars aren't a great financial investment anyway, Carla, typically, right? So
Right.
yes,
they depreciate the
100%.
minute you drive off the lot. So don't beat yourself up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Who else? What else did you accomplish for 2024? All right, one more person needs to speak so I can move on. That's how I'll get you to share. I know you guys have been accomplishing big things because I'm coaching with a lot of you. A lot of you are having great years. Things are on track. How about something you didn't achieve that you wanted to achieve?
Enough money.
Financial. Okay,
Yeah.
Billy, that's a good, yeah. So we set a goal and we didn't make it, right? It's
Yep.
okay. And we're setting a goal for 2025. But next year at this time, we're going to be having a different conversation, aren't we?
Yeah. We'll be talking about what we did accomplish as a team.
So then the other piece here is to start to look at what are your 3 greatest strengths in real estate? What are your 3 greatest strengths in real estate? And why do you think I'm asking you to look at that and identify that? What areas do you need to improve? So here's the piece. Again, if we understand truly and own, what do we bring to the table for people, right? So much of our business, especially now with the new laws, all you keep hearing is what's your value add, right? What is your differentiator? What are you bringing to the table for those clients? So even more so now than ever, but it's always been in the space, you have to be able to understand and articulate your strengths. Are you a really strong negotiator for clients? Could you articulate that? I consider myself a very strong negotiator. And I used to be able to say to people, listen, having somebody on the other side of the table that can ensure that we sort of hit that sweet spot of not paying too much, but actually winning the deal is going to be so critical in today's market. Right? So having somebody in that strength and making sure they understand how important with that, being able to articulate that takes you into a new step with clients. And then they understand and trust you through that process because they know you know what you're talking about. And then understanding where do I need to improve and being honest about that. Some people struggle with, and again, as real estate agents, and I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, you have to have such a range of skills as a real estate agent, right? You need to be able to cold call and prospect. You need to be able to time manage. You need to be able to organize. You need to be able to track. You need to be able to then have the relationship piece and show people. Then you need to be the psychologist to keep people sane through the process, right? Then you got to have the negotiation skills. Then we got to be organized again to keep that deal together, make sure all the parties are together. So we need to be kind of air traffic controllers, right? Real estate agents have a very, very diverse job and a very, very diverse set of skills that they need to do to truly be successful. Really, probably more so than anything you see out there in the world, because again, of all those components, not everybody's strong in everything. So where do you struggle? Is it from the time management piece? You know, a lot of people will say to me, listen, I do great once I get in front of the clients. I can close them, I can do the deal, but I'm not so great on that front end of building the relationship or putting them in the pipeline. Or maybe I'm really good at making the phone calls and building the pipeline, but I can't seem to get them into a contract. So I'm always trying to struggle. So really looking at that, what I call the life cycle of a client, and assessing where are my true strengths in that process? Where do I really stand out and help people? And where do I also need to potentially, maybe I'm not even bad at it, but maybe where can I expand my skill set to really take myself up into a mastery level of this whole process? Make sense? Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then really from your 2024 goals, right? Were your goals smart? We're going to talk about SMART goals in a minute in more detail, but were they truly a measurable goal? Were they, so I keep going back and forth so I can see you guys. Were they specific? SMART means, were they specific? Were they measurable? Were they achievable? Were they results focused? Were they time-bound? So let me give you an example. And again, we'll talk about this again in a second, but a goal of, I want to make a lot of money. Is that a SMART goal? No, not really, right? Or I want to lose weight in 2024. Not a SMART goal because it's not specific, but saying, I want to make 100K in 2024, 2025 going forward. Now we can break that down and say, okay, it's measurable, right? It's specific what I want to do. I can break it down. It's definitely achievable. It's results focused. It's something, because if I can measure it, I can then say at the end of the year, yes, I succeeded. And if I didn't succeed, I can know why I did not succeed so that I can then adjust my track, right? And it's time bound. I'm going to do this within the year. Now, a lot of you are doing the 12-week year with me, which starts to break down things into quarters. And I honestly, I think that is a great way to approach your 2025 goals too, in terms of, yes, we can have a goal for the year, but break that down into quarters so that we stay, if we get off track, we can readjust and get back on track quicker. We're not just trying to get to the end of the year, right? That by breaking that down in quarters and 12-week segments, we actually will really get to the end of the year goals, because everything we do within the quarter will be focused on getting that. If it's not, we'll know, okay, I need to adjust the next quarter goals in order to get to my annual at the end of the year. Okay? If you don't reach your goals, if you didn't reach your goals this year, and Billy said, you had financial goals, and people set different goals. If you failed to reach your goals, what prevented you from doing that? What prevented you from doing that? Now, I'm going to give you a word of caution here. Don't run into victim mode here, which is this happened to me, that happened to me, this person did that, this person did that. Whenever we are trying to talk about what I could have done better or a failure of that piece, make sure you're looking at that in terms of, what did I need to do differently? How did I need to show up differently? How did I need to adjust? If something happened that was out of my control, how did I perceive that? And did I get back on track once things were done? Because keep in mind, life happens, right? When we are not, if you think you are going to perform at even 80% every single day of the year, you are setting yourself up for failure. We can't do that, right? We need to be realistic and intentional about what we're going to do, but you're not going to be able to put your foot on the gas and go 365 days a year at full speed. We can't. We just can't do that. So everything we do, we want to set that up for success. So if we fail to reach that and something threw us off, did we not get back on track quick enough? Did we let something derail us so bad that we derailed for, 12 weeks or 10 weeks instead of like the 1 week that was actually the issue? Okay, and that's where I think the power of that whole 12-week comes into play, because if we're breaking it down by quarters and we do get off track, it allows us to get back on. On the other side of that, if I achieve my goals, what helped me stay focused? What fed into that? What was within me and the environment, and what did I do differently that helped me get to that? Right? What kept me in the zone, if you will, to use my own words that I used earlier with you guys? What kept me moving in the right direction? And that allows us to then look at, what do I need to do differently in 2025? For a lot of you, that's as simple as coaching and staying accountable, right? And showing up. Carla admitted this morning, like, I don't want to get out of bed Monday mornings. I don't want to, but if I'm accountable and I know I need to do that, and we all know, I think there was a famous commercial about this. What goes into motion stays in motion. Sometimes it is just that forward motion. Sometimes it's that little push. It's that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 from Mel Robbins, where I just get my butt out of the chair, or I 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I just pick up that phone because I move myself into my prefrontal cortex, which is actually where I take action. Prefrontal cortex in our brain is where we actually take action, but that's not where we live on a daily basis. So we have to be intentional with that to get ourselves there. We have to take that step. We have to push a little bit. Any thoughts or comments on that? You guys are so quiet this morning.
So I would say for that, and I think it's really normal that it takes me a long time to plan before I implement. And like reading the 12 weeks. I mean, I'm looking through all of this. I'm attending everything. I'm now reading, catching up on the 12-week year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think looking at it every 12 weeks makes so much sense. It's so hard to put a big yearly goal in a calendar together. You can put it together, but in 12 weeks, like, I can tell you what my week's going to look like. And I'm not doing it Monday through Friday. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
Perfect. Yep.
So that's all.
Okay. So for you, Susan, I'm hearing, and this is something we can help with the coaching, hopefully, is you really need to help break that down into smaller bite-sized pieces.
I did it. I don't know if anybody else uses ChatGPT, and I asked them to help me put my plan into a workable calendar using the 12-week year. And then you just keep talking to it till it looks like what you want. But it gave me a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday schedule for 3 things that I'd like to implement in the first quarter.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm happy to share with anybody too.
I love that. We need to bring the chat GPT can be so powerful, isn't it?
If you use it, you have to keep talking to it though.
Yeah,
You have to keep saying, no, wait, hold on.
I don't like that part. Yeah.
A little bit more this, a little bit more that, right?
Yep. That's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I use it quite a bit, and that would be a good thing to incorporate into the coaching sessions with you guys to help you narrow in on this stuff. So thank you for bringing that up. That's awesome. All right. So I want to go to, and I think this is on page motivations. I'm jumping around a little bit. Audrey Hepburn said, nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible, right? So the first thing is understanding that what you believe, you will achieve. What you believe, you will achieve. And that goes both ways. If you don't think you can, you won't. If you think you can, you will. That applies both directions. So how we approach this is very important. But there's a big piece that you have to, for many of us, we have to step back, and say, what's my why, right? I can have all the goals in the world that I want to do and I want to succeed with and I want to move forward in. But if I don't understand my why and it's powerful enough, then I won't take that action to get results. So I'll share with you that first year in real estate, when I did that 10 million, I had a very powerful why. I was coming out of a divorce. I was a mother of 2 small children, and I had a choice. I could either go back to corporate America and work the 9 to 5 and get back to traveling and not be around for the kids and meet the bus, or I could try my hand at this world called real estate and see if that could at least offer me the income I needed, but also the flexibility I wanted to do what I needed to do with the kids, right? So I had a very, very powerful why. So this part of the exercise for you guys, and again, we can incorporate this into the coaching. There's not even a little, there's a lot of self-reflection that needs to go on here. What is it that really drives me? So like for Billy, right? You said, I need to make this financial goal, or I want to make this financial goal, which is where a lot of our goals come from. I want to make so much money. But what is it about that that's going to drive that? Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't know if I was supposed to answer or not.
You
But
can.
yeah, like my main driver is buying my first multifamily and then just keep buying them after that. So that's my huge driver.
Yep. So Billy, I'm going to take that another step further. What is it about buying the first multifamily for you?
It's going to help me live more financially free. So I don't have to be stressing on the day to day in 20 years about income, and I can buy as many things.
And okay, keep diving, because then what does that give you in your life? I mean, yes, there's financial freedom in there and I hear money flow and stuff like that, but what does that then allow you to show up in the world as?
Like a vision for myself, or like what I would be doing then. Like basically like I'd be able to just travel the world and operate my business from kind of wherever I want. If I want to go to Aruba for 2 weeks and hang out and do stuff, I can. If I want to go to Harley and buy a new motorcycle, I can. Like I just like financial freedom and living the way I want to live.
Good. Yep. So when you come up with these, keep diving into that. And it, sometimes it helps to approach this as, what is that visual of me 5 years from now if I achieve these goals? What does my life look like, right? How am I showing up for the people I love, or for myself, or in the world? What am I able to do? Maybe it's from a philanthropy piece. Maybe it's from a family piece. Maybe it's, for me, right, there was a strong driver of, yes, I needed to be able to support the kids, but the bigger piece was I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there to meet the bus. I wanted to be there at the school sports after school, right? That was the strong driver for me, probably more than even the financial at that point. So make sure when you ask yourself these questions, keep diving down into that. What is that truly giving me? See ya. What is that truly giving me? What does that picture look like? How do I feel at that stage? What is the freedom I have? What are the things I can do in the world? This is kind of a deep exercise to go into, because you can actually do this for this year, and then you can say 5 years from now and 10 years from now, what do I want that to look like? And we're all in this call at different stages of our life. So those are going to look very different, right? Those are going to look very different. But don't be afraid to start this whole exercise with really getting at the why. Because if you get at your why, the rest of it really falls into place nicely. And also you'll keep on track. You'll definitely keep on track with your goals if you understand your why. How are you going to stay accountable? Right? Are you going to hold yourself accountable? Are you going to plug into coaching with me? How are you going to ensure that you stay on track and you stay accountable? We all know accountability is a very, very big differentiator in success or not. There's people who set goals and set annual yearly reservation. What did I just say? New Year's resolutions, right? They set resolutions. I'm going to do this. But if there's no accountability behind that, if there's nobody else to say, hey, you didn't do this, what's the impact of that? So I'll give you an example of this. Let's say you want to say, I'm going to lose so much weight in this year. And I don't have any accountability. I don't have anything on track. I just keep going through the year. I'm not kind of adjusting and looking at it and saying, hey, if I eat so many calories a day, then I'm not going to achieve the goals I want to get. If I'm not staying on track, if I don't have somebody to keep me accountable and say, where are you at this point and how do we adjust that plan, right? It's easier for me to stay in that back part of the brain where there's no action, not move into the prefrontal cortex where I get that action and I get out, actually put my sneakers on and I go for a walk, or I go to the grocery store and I get what I need, right? And I just hang back, but I'm not accountable. And we all know people that do this. They kind of talk about what they want to do, but they never actually execute. And I suspect pretty much anybody on this call doesn't come from that because you're in a commission-based business. You have to hold yourself accountable or there's no food to eat. There's no money coming in, right? So, but recognize the impact of that. It's really critical. The accountability is a very, very big component of keeping ourselves on track. Okay. Commitment. What is your commitment? Are you truly obsessed with making that? What is the difference in your life between making that goal and not making that goal? We can say we want to do things, but you really have to be like obsessed with it for a reason. And again, there does have to be a why behind this. Sometimes we're just like, no, I just want to make money, or I just want to be, but there's a reason why, right? Money in the bank isn't everything. That's not going to give us what we're looking for. There's something we're looking for underneath that. But what does that look like for you? How are you going to stay committed? How are you going to get how are you going to get yourself out of bed on the mornings you don't want to get out of bed? How are you going to put yourself back on track when we get off track? How am I going to get myself re-implemented if I take a week off of vacation and then I come back to work? How am I going to ensure I don't lose another week trying to get back on track? How am I truly going to stay committed? And then there's a page on here on thinking of your way to success. As you can tell, I'm very focused on the science of success and your brain because I think there's a lot in there for us to work with. And when we can keep our brain on track and not stay in that, I like to call it there's limited beliefs. There's that executive committee in our head that tells us we can't do it or we're not enough or that's too much, right? There's we all got a lot of things going on in our head. And keep in mind that, I keep talking about moving into the prefrontal cortex because that is not your default mode. Your default mode is to stay in that, now I can't think of the word, it's like your magnum or whatever, the back of your brain. That's actually a default mode, but that's because that protects us. That keeps us safe. That makes sure we don't make bad decisions. That makes sure we don't walk in front of a car or a bus. That makes sure that's our little bit of our fear factor comes into play in our life, but that's our default mode. And once you recognize it, that's where we live unless we consciously choose to put ourselves into action and to think forward and move without fear. We're kind of having to push against that, right? So thinking competitively in strategy, thinking without fear, thinking about moving forward and how I can come of service to people. Those are big components into actually succeeding and getting what we're looking for. We all know people, you look at them and you're like, oh my God, I love when people say to me that first year in business, how lucky I was. They're like, oh my God, you were so lucky you did 10 million that first year in the business. And I got to tell you, I got pretty damn defensive fast. There was no freaking luck involved in that year at all because that was so intentional. It was a do or do not do. It was either show up and make those phone calls, even though I didn't like to make them, get out and meet people and start to have conversations around business, or I go back to corporate America and I have a life that I didn't necessarily want at that stage of my life, right? So that was a very focused time for me. And trust me, luck has nothing to do with anybody's success because even if on the days when you say I'm going to work for an hour and I make phone calls, right? And I start to call people and I'm not getting people on the phone. And I think, oh, that wasn't a successful day. That is going to still be successful because you have opened up the channel of I'm going to do business and I'm taking action. And a lot of times, even if those phone calls don't result in an action, guess what happens later on in the day? You run into somebody and they say, oh, I forgot to tell you, my friend is looking to buy a house. Right? That's how stuff happens. That's how stuff flows, because you're showing up and doing the action, the results will come. The results will come. Oops, I keep opening the wrong spreadsheet. Sorry. Any thoughts or triggers around this?
Paul, I just wanted to share quickly because I think it's connected to what you're just sharing now about motivation. And I don't know if anybody follows Mel Robbins, I think her name is. She posted something over the weekend, and if you follow her, I think you have to see it. It's about manifestation, but without all the weird stuff. She calls it without the woo-woo. And it's really based on neuroscience and visualization, which I think is so important when we're setting up our goals, to really visualize and be very specific. So I invite everybody to look at it because it was really, it's connected to all of this.
Carla, I saw that. And I will share the link with everybody because that scientist was amazing, wasn't he?
Yes.
And actually, my love of the brain and a lot of the stuff I talk about comes from Mel Robbins, because I love, it's one thing to talk about this and say, oh, you got to think your way to success. You got to do that. But she does dive into the why, that there is a science behind this. There is, and that I can't think of the guy's name now that she interviewed in that podcast, but it was very cool. And he did talk about very specific executable steps. Right? Very specific executable steps. So I'm glad you shared that. One of the two of us, maybe if you can find the link, or I'll find the link.
Okay.
Let's share that in Slack, because that was a really good podcast. Good. Okay. Love
I saw
that.
it too.
Huh?
I saw it too.
Did you?
Yeah. I thought it was great. It was
We're all hanging in the same space.
Yeah.
I love her. And I'm going to manifest having her do one of our in-person sessions or something. She's in Boston. She's got a studio right in Boston too.
Mm.
So we're gonna manifest a session with her. I brought Hal Robbins down to Florida. I mean Hal Elrod. Sorry, Hal Elrod. And I mixed the names there. Anybody know Hal Elrod, Miracle Morning? He's another great one. We'll talk about him as you go forward. And there's actually a Miracle Morning for real estate people. I actually brought him into Florida to do a session with the agents. It was unbelievable. But up in Boston, we're going to do Mel Robbins, because she's awesome. She's really good. Good. All right. I want to talk a little bit about conversion as we get to the back end of this. So, well, first, I'm jumping ahead too far. Let me go back here for a second. Let me go back to your goals. Where's the 2025 numbers? Sorry. I'm sorry I'm doing it this way. I forgot to print it out and bring it with me. My bad. Where's the 2025 numbers? What page am I looking for here, guys? Here's the tracking. There's the review.
20, tracking the numbers for 2025?
Yeah, I thought I had your goals though in here. Right here. This is what I'm looking for. This one, page 5.
Oh, 5.
Page 5. I want to talk about this real quick and again, I have a spreadsheet that I'll share with you guys as we go through the coaching to help you back into stuff. I know Susan said she also used ChatGPT a little bit, so you can do that too. But I've got a Excel sheet that we can based on splits and things like that and conversion rates. You can set the money that you want to make, and then we can back you into how does that break down? So my recommendation is that you start at the top here and come up with one. Either I want to sell 10 million in business this year, or I want to make so much money this year, or I want to do so many transactions. Some people say, well, I want to do 2 transactions a month or 1 transaction a month, or whatever that looks like for you. And then we can help back into what does that look like for how many people do I have to get in front of? How many listings do I have to take? And then how many need to sell based on that? There are conversion rates there, right? So when you say, I want to do, 1 transaction a month, how does that break down? So I want to talk a little bit about conversion rates. You don't have to dive too much into this yourself, because I will do this all with you in your coaching sessions. And if you're not doing coaching sessions on a regular basis, we can do a business planning session separately as well. But I want to talk about the power of conversion rate, because that there's a big piece here that we have to understand. And I'm going to back into this. So first and foremost, every person we talk to is not going to turn into an appointment, right? So I need to figure out how many appointments do I need to get on the calendar. Numbers, statistics show, and don't cringe at this, but this is only to help you understand when you say things aren't working, that it's not about things aren't working. And you hear me say it's a numbers game, it's a numbers game. If you are a newer agent or don't consider yourself a strong prospector on the phone, like cold calling, it's 125 conversations to get an appointment. 125 conversations to get an appointment when you're new in the business or not feeling as comfortable with the prospecting piece. For most people, in the second year of that, it drops as quickly as 60. Right? So once I get some skills and I get some comfort level and I get some confidence, that goes to 60 conversations. And it actually drops pretty quickly from there. Because what happens as I build my business, my confidence goes up, but I also have better conversations, right? I get more referrals, which again, when I'm talking to a referral, I have a much higher probability of putting them on an appointment and turning them into a listing or a buyer, right? But if I don't have that pipeline, then I've got to look at that higher number. So that's our first high level number. How many appointments do I need to get on the calendar? And when we dive into the spreadsheet, for most of you in today's market, if you could put 2 new appointments on your calendar every month, you could make $100,000 a year. 2 new appointments, meaning I'm in front of a new seller or I'm in front of a new buyer, doing a buyer rep agreement or doing a listing presentation, I could make $100,000 a year based on conversion rates. Then we dive into what does the conversion look like once I have that opportunity? So that's what you're looking at here. If I have an opportunity to meet with a buyer, I get that appointment and I get in front of them, I have an 80% chance that they will work with me to go look at houses. And I have a 65% chance that once they're working with me, they will get to the closing table. Again, my spreadsheet will help you do this. So don't freak out if you're like, oh, I'm not a math person. She's throwing numbers at me. I'm going to help you do this. But I'm stressing this because not every person we meet turns into a sale. Not every person we converse with turns into a sale. We have to have a lot of conversations. We have to have a lot of meetings, and then we have to ride the conversion rates to get to those closings. Now, the other side of this is if we track what we're doing going into 2025, we can help identify, are we on track with our conversion rates? Do I convert at this level, or where is my conversion rate not up to industry standards? Because that life cycle of the client, right? I have a prospective lead. Now there's a link in the chain. I have a prospective lead. I need to make a phone call. I need to try to get in front of them. There's a link in my chain. Once I get in front of them, I need to get them into a buyer rep, and I need to start showing them appointments. There's another link in my chain. Once I do that, I need to get them to write an offer, right? I need to start putting in offers on properties. There's a link in my chain. Once I get an offer, I need to get them to the closing table. So those are multiple links in my chain or my life cycle of my client. And once we identify, well, I talk to people really well, I get in front of them, but I don't write offers as much as I really should be based on conversion rates. Then we can look at, okay, how do we enhance your skill set there to help strengthen that chain life cycle for the clients to get you to the results you want? Or maybe you write a lot of offers, but you don't get to the closing table. How do we strengthen that piece of your business to help you get more clients to the closing table? See the value in this? It's all in the numbers. But not every person I talk to is going to turn into a deal. So I've got to talk to a lot of people. I got to get in front of a good amount of people. I got to be out showing property to a few of those people. I got to be writing contracts for a subset of that group, and then I'll get to the closing table to get the numbers I'm looking for. When you go to the seller side on the conversion rate, for every listing opportunity that I have a 65% chance of signing a listing agreement. Why? Because typically there's more competition on the listing side, right? Many times I'm up against one or two other agents. And so my conversion rate, or the national conversion rate, is 65%. If I get 65% of the opportunities I do for listing opportunities, I'm on track. And of those 65% that I take, I have an 80% chance to get to the closing table. We all know not everything goes under contract. Not everything closes on the listing side. But the stronger I get at being able to have a good conversation with my sellers about price, about strategy, and moving them through that process. When an offer comes in, the conversations I have with them to actually get them to accept a contract or an offer and get them success in the closing table, right? That all factors into that. So again, if my conversion rates aren't there, how do I strengthen my skill set? How do I strengthen the conversations I'm having with the clients to help them get to where they need to be? Is that all making sense?
Absolutely is.
So understanding that, and again, I'm going to tie this into the coaching piece with you guys. When I talk about your pipeline, right, building that pipeline of people that I'm working with, and for anybody that's looking to say make 100,000 to 125, 150, I'll say that pipeline needs to be probably 25 to 30 deep, meaning I've got 25 to 30 people that I've queued up for my conversations so that I can get to the closings that I want to get to. That's all part of this process when I'm talking to you about that pipeline. That's all driven from the conversion piece. And for those of you that haven't done it with me, we'll do the spreadsheet so you know this is, if I want to make this number this year, this is how many closings I need to have in order to have this many closings. This is how many contracts, whether they're listing, this is how many offers I need to be participating in. Based on how many offers I need to be participating in, this is how many listing and or buyer agreements I need to get, right? And in order to get those listing and buyer agreements, this is how many appointments I need to have on the calendar. In order to get those appointments on the calendar, this is how many conversations I need to be having. It's not really hard, is it? It's not. We make it way more complicated than it needs to be. It is a business. It is a numbers game. And the successful agents are the ones that can work past that. I have to have 125 conversations to put an appointment on the calendar. So every no I get on those phone conversations is getting me closer to my yes. Every no I get puts me closer to the yes. So I have to keep going forward. I have to keep making the phone calls. I have to take that rejection as a, that's okay. I'm moving closer to my yes. Pretty powerful, isn't it, when we do it that way? What are our thoughts around our goals now and our approach and how we're going to look at this?
I think it really helps set the tone. And I also think it allows you to not be, sometimes you can set unrealistic expectations for yourself. You know, I'm a list maker, and sometimes I look at my list at the end of the day, I'm like, wow, I only got through, you know, half of this, but there's another day. And this, I think, allows you to set your expectation and say, hey, you know what? It's okay if you don't meet it today, but just get it by the end of the week.
Break it down into bits, right? The other side of that too, Christina, is, and sometimes, and again, because that's a really good point. If let's say we say, okay, I need those 2 appointments on the calendar every month. Really simple, right? If we focus on just that, not that I'm going to go show the property, not that, but I need to put every month 2 new appointments on the calendar every month. So if I'm making phone calls today and it's Friday of week 2 and I haven't even put one on the calendar, what am I going to do? I'm going to make phone calls until I put an appointment on the calendar. I'm going to reach out to friends. I'm going to reach out to Paula and ask for more leads. I'm going to do whatever it takes because I need to put that appointment on the calendar. What do you think happens when we have that kind of intentional focus?
You get stuff done.
Yeah, and you put that appointment on the calendar.
And I think one thing I noticed too recently, I've had a couple referrals from other clients, and I've had calls from, whether that's rentals or buyers or sellers. And I always remind my clients, I'm like, hey, just, refer me. If you loved working with me and loved, I've had other agents that are like, hey, I'm not in this area whatsoever. I would love to send my clients your way. They don't even ask for a referral fee.
Mhm.
Some do, some don't. I mean, it's great when they don't, but buy them a glass of wine or something after.
Yep. It's a relationship business. You'll hear that a lot because it is a relationship business. Our relationships pay off in the end. And there's another piece here that I haven't mentioned that I think is really important. Your network, your loved ones, your friends, your past clients that you've done all these great things for, they want to help. They want to help you. And sometimes it's as simple as us asking, hey, I'd love some help. Or are there other people in your network that you would love for me to help like I was able to help you, that I can protect through a real estate transaction to ensure that their best interests are looked out for? Because that's really what we do, right? We make sure people don't get burned in the deal. We make sure that, we all know that there's a lot of Yahoo agents out there, and we're hoping there's less and less under this new law. But what kind of position have those people that don't understand the business, that don't show up for training, that don't understand the rules and what's going on? How many agents have you crossed paths with that are just in it to write a contract to make a buck? And what was the consequence to that buyer or seller, whether they knew it or not? Sometimes they don't even know it. Did they get in a property with a huge inspection issue because they waived an inspection? Did they take less on a sale than they maybe needed to take because that agent didn't have the skill set to do a good negotiation? Right? You guys in this room show up every day to ensure that your clients are really looked out for. And I know that's what's in your heart. That's why you're here. Right? Yeah, you make a paycheck and you want to have that financial freedom and you want that next step. But in the end, you're all here because you want to serve that client. You want them to, as we say here at Charlesgate, live and invest better. I love that tagline. Live and invest better. They can have what they want. Good. Okay. I need 3 ahas from this lovely hour that we've spent together. 3 ahas. Who can share 3 ahas? Everybody know what that is? The light bulb went off. The old Oprah saying, I think, my ahas.
Yeah.
What do you
Mine
got?
is you gave me a measurement. I make the calls all the time, but I don't think my accountability to myself is that I spend the time doing it. Now my accountability is going to be, I got to get at least two appointments, right?
There
And
you
I
go.
know I'm on trying to get the appointments, but and then again I said, well, I'm gonna have to call more hours, but no, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna get the appointments, and when I get that, I will celebrate and go and get some more.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Okay. Who else? I know you had them. I saw the eyes and the
Yes, Steve.
I saw the nods.
I think it's getting back to basics, which I probably got away from in 2024. And, it's easy to say none of this is rocket science, but you really just have to do the calls and set some smart goals and it'll happen.
Love that. Anybody else? All right. Well, this translates into the coaching, right, in a planning session. So again, I have that spreadsheet. I'm happy to do a planning session with you once you've gone through this handout. Go through the handout, start to talk about your why, start to think about your goals. You don't have to break everything down because I'll help you break it down. What you have to come up with is that big goal, whether that's number of transactions, how much I want to make, or sales volume that I want. And then I'll help you break that down into how we're going to execute. And then in 2025, we are going to measure so you can achieve. We are going to measure, because when we measure, then I can help you adjust or expand your skill set or whatever that looks like to move that forward. All right. And thanks to Susan's connection and my love of Tony Robbins, we are putting a peak performance special session on with the Charles Gate agents in January. So we want to get all this done and geared up so that when we come into that session and we ramp ourselves up, we are already in action as we step forward. So stay tuned. More information on that coming. All right, guys, I appreciate your time this morning. Make it a great day. If I don't speak to you again, happy Thanksgiving. Have a wonderful holiday with your family. Step back out of the business and enjoy the day. That's as important as it is to show up every day and be accountable here. And I am available this week, and I have some time slots. So anybody that wants to add in, use the link or reach out in an email, and I'll send you some times, and we'll go through your planning over the next couple of weeks.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you.
Paula.
Great seeing you guys.
Thank you, Paula.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. It'll shut me off in a second. Okay. It can't be this tough.